Dragon Ballers, if you're looking to buy Dragon Ball Super or One Piece sealed product, make sure to get 5% off using my link to Mystic TCG down in the description. You can also sell cards to them using their Facebook link, which is also down in the description. Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Today I want to go over one of the decks that I've really been enjoying with the new Zenkai Dash Pack support, and that is the classic Spaceship GT deck. We're going to go over that in today's video. Now, I think a lot of people might be wondering, why would I play this deck when I can play what might be, or what might seem like, the obviously better SS4 Gogeta deck? And I'm not sure if it's obviously better at this point. I do think that Gogeta and Sin are probably still the best red decks, but those two decks have been hit quite a bit, and this deck has gotten some really cool support in the Zenkai Dash Pack, which we'll showcase today. We are using all the new cards in this deck profile. I think they're all very, very good for the strategy. So we'll go over that in today's video. But firstly, don't miss out on your chance to enter the giveaway we're doing on the channel. Go to the community tab of this channel and go enter the giveaway we're doing, which is a thank you to all of you for the 10,000 subscriber mark that we hit basically right at the start of the new year. So again, huge thank you to all you guys. We're gonna be doing a giveaway pretty much every month of the year. Every single month of the year, we're gonna do a big giveaway. I'm gonna give away some really high quality, expensive stuff. To this time, we are doing a Dex Protection card holder, which holds multiple decks, holds a large lot of cards, and it looks very nice doing it. So make sure to enter the giveaway for that. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe so we can keep growing the channel, keep doing more giveaways, doing all that awesome stuff. Thank you all so much for the support over the years. Anyways, we will jump right on into this deck profile. We are starting with the classic GT leader. You start with the Spaceship in play, which is the first card in the deck, only playing one copy. This build is not actually meant to go super late game with the Spaceship. I'll explain more about that in just a bit. But yeah, you do start with it in play, so you can basically subtract that from your total deck count. Even though I think when you subtract it, this count is at 53. I would like to maybe even trim it down a bit more, maybe just by one more card. But I do like all the cards and choices in this current build. So on your unawakened side, when you attack, you put one sand under the Spaceship and you draw two. You have a great filter there. You can awaken when it's 4 or less, or when you have a unison with 7 or more markers, and then you draw 2 cards. So you do actually draw quite a bit. You draw a lot of cards in this deck, especially on your awakened turn. On the awakened side, we have simple draw 1 on attack, and then you have the activate main for the red. You can play your Spaceship if it happens to end up in the drop area, which is great, just happens to come up sometimes. I will say with Smoke Dragon in the format, this thing going to the warp is obviously a bit of a problem, but this build is actually meant to beat Smoke Dragon, and again, I'll get into that in a second. And then on the awakened side, you have the Spirit Boost 10, which honestly doesn't come up all that much. Again, this build is not really meant to just load up a million markers on the Spaceship, but you can do it. It is definitely possible in this build. It's just not really meant for that. And the reason why I say all this, like odd stuff that doesn't usually pertain to the GT deck, the Spaceship deck I mean, is the Baby Unison. So with the Baby Unison, we are aiming to play around Smoke Dragon because it is going to be very frequent for our opponent to be able to Smoke Dragon us, especially if we unfortunately go second. I know a lot of people are going to comment that you can get the Spaceship up to 8 markers and whatnot. That is totally possible, but it requires a pretty specific hand as well as going first. You're not always going to go first, right? So we have the Baby Unison, which is like, cool, you want to smoke us? That's perfectly fine. We're going to go into our really powerful Baby Unison on the next turn. That feels really good, especially combined with the Z leader for the deck. We will go read the Z leader later, but that card can put cards under Baby, which works towards Baby's effect. When it would lose a marker, you can remove a card from underneath it instead of losing that marker, which makes this one of the tankiest unisons in the game in tandem with this specific Z leader. And most of the cards in the deck are still able to be played from under any unison. They don't specifically have to be under a Spaceship vessel. So there's still a lot of great synergy in the deck with it. It's a great unison, plays around smoke, offers removal, offers draw power. There's nothing really to complain about it except for the fact that it costs 3, right? That's like one of the most expensive plays in the deck. That's not an absolute bomb, but it is a great stabilization card. Then for our counterplays, we have one Yamcha, which works with either Spaceship or Baby, and we have 2 Videl, which just works with Baby, but Videl is just so strong. We're playing the one Yamcha, though, because if we do happen to open it, it can be very vital in helping us protect our Spaceship, but still, it works with Baby, so it's a card worth playing. It's almost like the third Videl, and sometimes worse than Videl, sometimes better than Videl, so it's just really matchup dependent. Now for our actual Spaceship lineup, we have 4 Goku Adventures Advent and 3 Trunks Adventures Advent. You still do want to start with a 1-drop in this deck. It does load the extra marker on the Unison, just making it more tanky, making it harder for your opponent to actually clear the Unison. Then we have 2 copies of Goku Battle on Planet M2. This is a card I used to like a lot more, but now that we've gotten some of the new support, it's kind of pushed out a little bit. Hitting for the crit early is still really nice. Hitting for the extra draw early and putting another Saiyan under Unison is very nice. This is one of the cards that I think you might just play like 3 or 4 or don't play it at all, because at this point playing it at 2 is like I'm hoping to open it early, and if I don't, then I just don't play it the rest of the game. So this might be a card that gets cut overall, but I still do like having the crit option personally. 4 copies of Trunks Soaring Through Space. Incredible card for the deck. This is one of the cards that helps you protect your Unison, especially going second. When it's in rest mode, your opponent cannot attack your Unison. It's a barrier threat, and just putting barrier cards on the board is great. It's a lot harder for your opponents to get them off the board if they want to, besides attacking it, obviously. 4 copies of Pan Soaring Through Space. You have a lot of great options for playing Trunkses and Gokus. If you're up against like a hand control matchup, you can use the pay 2 to play both the Adventures Advents and just get a bunch of draw power. If you're up against anything where you want to be more aggressive, you can play Battle on Planet M2 as well as Trunks Soaring Through Space, getting that pressure on board with the barrier as well as the crit. But you can also play one of the new cards that's come out, and that is Goku, Pan, and Trunks Journey to the Cosmos. This card is a beast. We're playing 3 copies because it is unique. You can, however, start playing them for 1 energy as early as turn 2, and you can also play it off of Pan's effect, the Soaring Through Spaceship, because it is technically a Trunks and a Goku that cost 15k. So this thing, when it attacks, you can either do one of 3 effects. It always gains 5k on swing, and you can either KO a battle card with 15,000 power or less, or if it gets up to 25k, it gains Double Strike, which there's another effect in the deck that boosts it in a second. Or you can pay 2 to play your 8-drop boss monster on top of this card, which will end up netting you 4 attacks at 35k, which is kind of insane. So yeah, really good play enabler, just a good solid mid-game card. This card's great in every scenario pretty much. Then we have 4 copies of Goku Soaring Through Space. Still one of the best cards to play from under a Unison. On play, kill something 20k or less, and then you're able to start recycling cards under your spaceship, specifically your spaceship, unfortunately, but still a really solid effect. You can put Pans that you've blocked with back under your spaceship and replay them for free, which is really good. We have 3 copies of Pan Heartfelt Support. So you can play this for free from under a Unison as long as you have a Goku in play. So obviously we have all different Gokus, but keep in mind that Journey to the Cosmos counts as a Goku as well as a Pan and a Trunks, right? So this thing can be played for free, and that's not limit 1. So you can just play as many of these from under your Unison as possible, which is nice because we do want to, make some value cards on board to combo for Z energy. This isn't necessarily a cantrip, but if you put it under a Unison via an effect and then play it, it's almost like it replaces itself because you're playing it from an area that's not your hand. You're not pulling from your hand count to get this thing on board, so it makes great Z energy. But what you can also do is you can get yourself awakened, or rather you can get yourself down to 4 life with the other activate main. You do have to have 3 or more energy, but if you do, you can boost a Goku or Trunks on board by 5k, so you can boost Journey to the Cosmos by the additional 5k it needs to gain Double Strike. And putting yourself down to 5 or 4 life fixes a lot of problems this deck once had, which we'll cover in just a moment. But anyways, we have 3 copies of our Galactic Explorer boss monster. This is again going to combo well with Journey to the Cosmos. It gives you more markers on either of your Unisons. The Spirit Boost 3 is not really too bad of a cost on either Unison because Baby does end up building up a lot of markers. So yeah, incredible card. Also gives you the board wipe. Not enough good things to say about it. 2 copies of Omega Shenron Unfeeling Retribution. We are playing a red Z leader, so we can play this card for 2 energy. This card is really good in red matchups because the first time it would be minused, it's going to actually gain power. So most red decks actually have to use minus power abilities to get things off the board, and Omega Shenron just negates that the first time your opponent tries to do it, right? I could see this card going into the sideboard, but with how prevalent red is with the triangle of kind of, Gogeta, Sin, and Crimson, this still seems worthy of main decking, but you could of course bump it to the side. It's not super necessary, but just having a 2 energy triple striker does feel pretty nice. Then we have 4 copies of Raditz Saiyan Youth. Thank goodness we can finally play this card in this deck consistently. Before we had access to Pan Heartfelt Support, this deck could pretty easily get stuck at 6 life because your opponent could attack your Unison every single time if they wanted to. So they could leave you at 6 and never allow you to go down to 4 to turn on the best possible super combo for your deck. So a lot of players would play Krillin super combo, which would always draw a card as long as you had a Unison in play. But Raditz just by far and away the better option. You can search it off Goku Adventures Advent, and it cycles through your deck and puts dead cards to the bottom of your deck. So it's an incredible thing. We can play Raditz at 4 in this deck. Then we had 3 difference of status, one of the most busted cards in this deck because you load your spaceship with a ton of markers and then you can just remove markers to kill things that your opponent attacks with. Insanely good card. And then we have 3 copies of Testing the Opposition. Again, this card is much more consistent in this deck because of the Pan Heartfelt support, putting us down to 5 life. Whenever I have 1 or 2 copies of Testing the Op in hand, I will always use Pan to put myself down to 5 instead of 4, so I can take that 5th life to negate and then make the blocker and then stop another attack. Incredible synergy. Everything so far seems to have really good synergy with each other. Then we have 2 copies of Imposing Presence. Now, it's pretty hard for red decks to actually quote-unquote stop your opponent's turn because the best red floodgate in the form of Violent Rays has been hit, right? Imposing Presence, though, is really good against Crimson, and it's okay against Sin and Gogeta, so I think it warrants at least a 2-up spot here. I'd probably side deck at least 1 more if you do plan on facing Crimson at your locals. 1 copy of SSB Vegeta, the Unbridled Power. I think this is the best SCR for this deck, but of course you can go with budget options. This deck should be relatively budget friendly if you're able to get the Zenkai Dash Pack cards from your locals, and if you forego this SCR, you can play anything from Heroine's Lineage, any of the cheaper red SCRs really, so you have options there for sure. And then we have 1 copy of Further Instruction Champa. You're a red deck, you're an aggro deck, just makes perfect sense. And then we have 1 copy of Dark Broly Heartless Berserker, that last attack you need to win the game, or that last piece of removal you need. Incredible cards. So yeah, overall this is going to be 54 cards, and subtracting the spaceship from the main deck puts you at 53. So it is rather consistent. Again, I might end up just cutting like Goku, Battle on Planet M2, but not 100% sure yet. Going down to the Z deck, we have the Z Leader, which is an absolute powerhouse, has base double strike. It goes back to putting cards under your unison, drawing 2 cards, and adding markers to it. So you're adding additional markers to Baby, so it's even tankier. It's even harder for your opponent to get it off the board. Now, in this build, I really have never used the Activate main because I don't really care about the spaceship. I'd rather just let my opponent smoke it if they want to, and then just go right into Baby, and then just start loading that up with the markers. That's the general game plan of the strategy. 2 copies of Defender of Life paired with 2 copies of Rush Attack Vegeta. Most red decks you'll see play 4 Rush Attack, but that's because those are Sin and Gogeta, and those decks load up on Z energy like it's their job. This deck and most other red decks, honestly, don't load up on that much Z energy, so all you really can afford is probably 2 copies of Rush Attack because you actually never get that much Z energy wide majority of the time. 1 copy of Videl, Daughter of the World Champion. It's okay. It's a 15k 1-drop. It offers removal if you happen to have like Pan in your Z energy, of which we have many Pans. So it is a rather live card. And then, of course, the 1 copy of Surmounting if you happen to need it. But honestly, you typically don't with Heartfelt support. So this could be a different card if you find one that you want to maybe increase the numbers of, or whatever the case is. But overall, this deck has been doing very well. Like, the strategy I built it for has been working out. Let my opponent kill my spaceship on 2. And think of it this way, right? Like, beforehand, if your opponent could kill your unison, that was a big problem because your deck revolved around it and you didn't have a really great reason to play other unisons. But now if my opponent wants to waste their entire turn 2 and waste like 3 or 4 or 5 attacks on killing my spaceship, cool. Next turn, I'll play Baby. I'll start clearing their board, you know, suck up 1 card, attack into another card, draw some cards, and then just restabilize from there. And that's been a pretty solid game plan so far. But of course, guys, I want in the comments below, what do you guys think about this build? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.